Man,
Welcome
I'm
to the
stuck in
Hyper
trouble.
Guy Motivational Podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. I have two great guests. I'm so privileged to have. They're really, in my mind, they're superheroes, and I'm so glad they agreed to come on the podcast. We had some little issues setting up today. It's driving us all a little crazy, but thank you, Mr. Bobby Farmer, for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man.
And I don't know where James is at, but we're gonna get James back here in a minute.
I'm here. I
Okay,
don't know what's going on, but
I think James is breaking up a little bit. So let me give you a little bit of background on Bobby first. Mr. Farmer is a retired U.S. Army veteran, 22 years of active service, 10 combat deployments, most of the Special Forces Green Beret, served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Some of the stuff I'm going to go over, Bobby, I appreciate because I know it's difficult to talk about these things, kind of things. Shot 3 times, sustained multiple traumatic brain injuries from blast. He has a herniated disc in his spine and has got some vision damage. And I think we talked about this earlier. You have post-traumatic stress, which I think almost everyone I know that's been in the military has had those issues. And we talked about this before. A lot of people didn't even bring that kind of stuff up in the past. So I'm glad it's something that you both of you are going to address in your own podcast. James, a 28-year veteran of the U.S. Army, 18 years were as a Special Forces operator. I think both of you were in the third special uh, training group, correct?
Third
Or
Special Forces Group, yes.
uh-huh. 7 combat deployments, 1 in Iraq, 6 in Afghanistan. Sustained multiple brain injuries as well, post-traumatic stress as well, fractured and broken vertebrae, and has 40% loss of his left arm. I want to thank both of you for being here because this is a topic that I think is very difficult to talk about for a lot of people. The fact that both of you have come forward and said this is what you're going to do, and I'm really happy because I get to speak about your podcast that you're going to be having, which is called Black Sheep Radio USA,
Yes,
a,
sir.
con a conversation with warriors. When are you guys going to be coming out with this podcast?
It's getting ready to launch really soon. What we're going to do is we're going to try and we are going to get at least 4 under our belt before we launch the first one. So we can, rotate them in about every other week. Um, just a heads up, like this isn't a war story podcast. So if you want that, there's plenty of guys that are doing that currently. That's not what this is about. This is how did you stay on the planet? How do we keep you here? What did you do? What are your healing modalities? What worked for you? That's what we want to talk about. We all know we all know what we did over there. We all know we pulled the triggers. Um, that's fine and dandy. But I want to know, how are you still here? What sustained you? What's kept you here on this planet? Those are what the conversations are going to be about.
And James, do you have any insight in terms of what you're looking at as well for the podcast?
no, it's just. I mean, we've talked a lot about what our mission statement is. What keeps you on here? What our we have suggestions like functional medicine, different things that have worked for us. But I mean,
Mhm.
we're a small microcosm in the whole thing where like all the stuff that we've done together. And it's it's just to point other people in the right direction, because there's a lot of people that I talk to. I get guys that walk into our gym that have no clue that there's things out there that can actually help their brain, like going to the brain treatment center.
Mhm.
Going to there's a place in Texas that all they deal with is post traumatic stress. There's a place in Atlanta, and they deal with not only post traumatic stress, but their main focus was brain injuries. And so we can take guys not only from the groups but also from the conventional side and link them up with people there and go, hey, does this fit your needs as far as treatment? And a lot of this stuff can be done through nonprofits. They don't have to pay on their own.
Yeah, I think
There's another program that Bobby and I went through that the Army paid for, that the VA is actually paying for it for guys that are out now.
Yeah,
So
I think a lot of this, and it's interesting. I'd say probably over the last, I'd say 7 to 8 years or about that time frame, you didn't really hear a lot about this kind of the traumatic brain injury. And people talk about post-traumatic stress, but it wasn't really focused on you. And I want to ask you too, and we're going to get into this a little bit, but I'm going to ask you this up front, and then we're going to start getting into a little history about you both. But um, both of you are really strong to come forward. I mean, when people think of like special forces or you've been in a war, like this is not something that easily comes up. And
Mm.
how did both of you come to a place where like I'm okay talking about this? And how long did it take both of you to realize that you had this trauma?
oddly enough, we did it together, and it was
Mm.
completely. We didn't do it on purpose. You know what I
Nope.
mean? We literally did not do it on purpose. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but it's literally the way it was. Um, Bobby and I met in the engineer battalion back in the middle '90s. He had
Yeah.
just come, what was it, Alaska through. You got to Bragg, Alaska via Virginia,
Yeah. I just
and
got back
then,
from Kosovo and then rotated into Fort Bragg, and we both ended up at the same engineer battalion in Fort Bragg.
yeah, and then we left around the same time too.
Hmm.
Um, so we've known each other for a really long time. I mean, I just turned 57, and um, you know that's
Hot minute.
but that's how long we've been doing it, dude. I mean, we've been taking care of each other since the middle '90s.
Yeah. I think Martin, for me, you experience the worst that human beings can do to each other. You see things that, you know, normal human beings shouldn't see, shit that's in Rob Zombie movies. You feel me? But it's in real life. And then that real life, it comes with the traumas that are associated with it. Sometimes sometimes you have to suffer in silence until you can't suffer in silence anymore, and you have to speak up, and you have to speak up to save your life. And yes, it's a very cutthroat Shark Tank world. Show no fear, show no weaknesses, that kind of stuff. But how much does somebody have to endure? How much? What's the how much? You're a rock star. You're a rock star 1 minute, and then the next minute you're a piece of shit because you want to get help and you ask for help. So those folks aren't doing well now that they're retired and they're out. You know what I mean? That lifestyle that they tried to live and tried to push and push and push and push and literally push us until we literally physically and mentally broke without any relief. That's the life that I lived. That's the life that Jim lived. And it come to a point where my psyche and my physical surroundings, i.e., my family, everything collapsed around me, and literally in a day period. I'm sure it was a lot slower than that, but for me at that moment, it was a day. In a 24-hour period, I lost everything. Um, you know, so not speaking up about it and not raising my hand and not saying things done a whole lot more damage than asking for some help. So if there's men out there and men and women out there that are suffering in silence, it's time. If the VA is not answering the phone, it's time. Go somewhere else. There's other organizations. There's other things that you can do. Like myself and Jim, we are definitely on the same path and same boat of healing of what we do now. I go into more of a plant-based medicine healing. My journeys are definitely much different now, and much, for me, and I'm speaking on my behalf, on me, like it's been very beneficial in healing the war in me and healing the traumas that I experienced during those trips. So that's kind of where we're at now, and that's kind of why the podcast is going the way it is. Again, if you want to listen to the war stories, there's some really great podcasts out there that talk in depth and You can get that adrenaline hit. You can get that. You can get that download all you want. You know what I mean? I'm past that in my life now. I think James is too. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of how it led up to how I've got down this path and this journey. I didn't take no for an answer. Um, I knew there was always some modality out there that I was needing and wanting to heal with and from, and I would brave enough to try it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, James.
No, we're going. I mean, he said it for both of us.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little bit behind him as far as the plant-based stuff, but I mean, a lot of my focus has been working not only on myself as far as the TBI and the rest of it, but how do I maintain that physically? I work with guys in our gym here, and then through the peer group that a psych friend of ours started, in helping these guys work through some of their TBI stuff. And oddly enough, boxing movements is one of the things that I teach, and it actually helps that. So things that kind of led to some of us having some of the trauma that we have in our brains actually can help us with movement. But we're moving. You know, like I said, we started down the journey, started down this path around the same time. It just took me a bigger kick in the ass to figure it out.
So
And it was Bobby.
So let me ask you too. So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit in time in terms of how old were you both when you decided that you wanted to go to the military? When did you decide to do that? What kind of drove both of you to do it? And was there, and this is kind of, it's like a two-part question. I know some people don't like this double-barrel question, but have you ever at any one point said to yourself, man, you know what? I'm glad I did it, but there's some regrets I have about it, or have you ever got to that place where you just kind of process this, or how do you guys think about this when you think about your lives? Because you guys have been through so much, and I'm sure I was talking to my friend of mine that's, hey, I'm going into the special forces, and he's all gung ho about it. And one of the things that I was kind of reminding him about the discussions that we had too, and people still keep moving forward. So what was that whole process for both of you like, and where are you guys at now in terms of like how you kind of think about this?
Um, I went in the military very early on. I was 17 years old. I was a baby looking back on it, you know what I mean? With children of my own. Like I didn't have options. It was either the coal mines or the military. And to be honest with you, I broke that cycle and I went in the military. And there was a time, that I look back on it and like, what if, and kind of the woe is me. And I'm gonna be honest with you, that will lead you down a rabbit hole of infinity of what if I did this, what if I did that, what if I had this opportunity and that person had. And I have now come to terms literally of the things that I've seen, the things that I had to do, the violence that I had to inflict to come home and bring my men home. That was another one that I held hard. But those things that I did and the things that I witnessed and seen and the experiences I've had has helped me shape me to where I'm at today. How I look at things today. I'm so very grateful to be alive, and I wasn't for so long. So I get up every day and I think, thank God, I thank the world, I thank, Mother Earth, I think everything that has led me to the point where I'm at today, because I cannot change anything that's happened to me, but I can damn sure reparent myself. I can damn sure gentle parent my children. I can be that listening ear on the phone for another man that has went through the things that I've went through and tell him I understand. And sometimes literally that's all they really need to hear, Martin. Like there's another human being that really, really understands what you went through. So I'm definitely on the upswing. I love where I'm at now. I love my life. I love the things that I do. I love working in the veteran space. So I try not to focus on those. I've seen some horrific things. I've survived some sort of really unsurvivable situations, to be honest with you. And what was it all for? It's for me to pass that knowledge base on. It's for me to be able to access and sit with men at retreats and tell them I completely understand what you're feeling. I was once just like that, and this is how I got to where I'm at today. So,
James, you get the same question, my brother.
Well, I mean, it's, we kind of, like I said, we kind of go down the same path. But I was 18, and it was 1986, for me. And I mean, I knew it. I knew it from the time I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old.
Hmm.
I had a huge military history in my family. My dad, my uncles, like 4 or 5 of my uncles, Vietnam era. My grandfather, World War II, was actually a battalion commander for MacArthur. The amphibious tractors that bring him back ashore into the Philippines, that was my grandfather commanded that battalion. And so I mean, we had, it was part of our family. And then dating all the way back to Ireland, I mean, anything that happened, I mean, we were usually in it. Our family was usually involved in it. So, if you had asked me 2011, do I regret anything I did or everything I did, I would have said yes. Looking forward now, I don't. And it goes along the same lines of Bobby. I like helping people. I like helping guys that need it. Helping guys, try to point them in the right direction when they ask the right questions, or lead them into asking the right questions when I coach them. It's something that I do because I say we, because we truly did not have that when it was going on. I mean, and now that supposedly, the war is over, the physical part is, I want to help guys continue to do this, because in some of their heads, the war is not over.
So let me
yeah,
ask, let me
sorry.
ask you guys. I guess this is a follow-up for this. Let me ask you this, and this is what my podcast is about. I love that your podcast, and I will definitely be a listener. Because it seems to me both of you want to give folks the tools that have been through a lot of the experiences that both of you have. But for me, also, it's helpful for me because there's a lot of resilience in both of what you guys are talking about. Both of you were in it sounds like, and you can both correct me on this, is in some difficult places in your life and had to get through those things.
Mhm.
And I think many of us think, hey, you know what? My life is garbage. I can't do anything. This is never going to pass. And I guess what I want to ask both of you is, when you were serving overseas, as well as when you came back, when you had difficult situations, how did you both get through this? Like, what skills and tools, and what did you both do to get through this? Because I was telling James
Hmm.
before I came on, both of you have so much energy, and I'm like, man, you guys just push through it. And there's many people that I know are struggling to push through life. And what kind of tools and skills did both of you have now that you can give all of us?
I kept the Jameson Whiskey Company and money. That's how I dealt with it.
He did. Yeah, he did.
And it was not the right way, but
No, it wasn't. But you know what, Martin, to answer that question for you, we only had each other when we failed to pick each other up. There was no fail. It's you bend down, you skin your knee, you stand back up, and you lean on the folks. Because what works, Martin, is a beautiful saying, man. It really is. Why it works and how it works, we're not all crazy on the same day.
True.
And that's a beautiful saying. It really is. So when I'm struggling, Jim was there, and when he struggles, I was there. And leaning on each other and being honest with each other. It's the coming home from war that's the most difficult. That scene, and I don't remember, that dude was an IED, he dug a EOD guy. We come home to the grocery store and it was like completely abnormal. I have been right there. Like, Hope Mills Walmart was not the world. You know what I mean? Afghanistan and Iraq was the world. And that's a really difficult time to come home to because, and there's a big, separation between civilians and veterans. And, yeah, trust me, civilians are just as messed up as we are. We just have that catalyst of combat to send us over the edge and fill our bucket up, if you will. To be open and honest with the right folks, the right folks. Not everybody needs to hear your story. And that's to the civilians out there. Not everybody needs to hear your story, and not do they even deserve to hear your story. But find the right folks to talk to. Find a group of people. Find a healthy daily habit. That was one of the biggest things. Get up and get your body moving. What you put in your body is going to directly affect how you feel at the end of that day. If you keep Jameson in company, you can't expect to be a rock star that following morning. You know what I'm saying? But those daily habits, those healthy daily habits of what are you doing to better yourself? Are you doing breath work? Are you doing meditation? Are you exercising? Are you doing yoga? I can keep going down the list. Are you journaling? Writing down those things that happened to you and burning them off in the fire at night and asking for those prayers to release that trauma from your body, that really helps and it works. Is it the end all be all? Nope. Are you going to have to keep burning them papers? Yep. But you know what? I am a work in progress, as is James. We're always going to be a work in progress. I call it seasons. There's seasons that I'm doing well, and there's seasons, especially I'm coming up on an anniversary date right now, less than a week away. I know that about myself. What am I doing to prepare myself? Exactly what I'm telling this audience right now. I'm doing those same things. I'm getting up every morning. I'm doing everything I just told you to do. And I'm including art. I'm including music. I'm including those two very vital things in my life for me to help keep me sane. And I'm openly talking about it. Because Martin, guess what? I almost died in silence. Almost died in silence, not talking about these things. And the civilians out there, you need to hear these things. You need to hear what our policymakers and our presidents have put us in around the world. And I say this, and I don't say this lightly. Democrats and Republicans have both tried to put me in my body bag. Okay. So they're both have a weight to what I have experienced in my life and my family's had to experience with me trying to come home and adapt back into society. So it's a bipartisan. We are put and stretched to the absolute limits. Limits. I can tell you invasions into countries are not an easy thing. Invasions into anything aren't an easy thing. And you can sit and watch CNN or Fox News or whatever you watch, and you want to armchair quarterback us for decisions that we had to make on the battleground to try and save our lives, and our teammates' lives and the civilians in those populations. So it is a very stressful and difficult time for us. And coming home, again, if you raise your hand and you ask for help, it's a shark tank for us. So it should not be like that. Should not be like that at all. So
Yeah,
James,
I was
yeah.
gonna ask you both about that in particular because do you feel like, and I love how you said it, it's not a Republican or a Democrat thing because I think both sides put people in situations they don't want to be in.
Mhm.
And so I guess the question I have for you around that is leadership. And what I mean by that is you hear all the platitudes from politicians on both sides about, oh, we love our veterans and we give them so much support. But then when I talk to the veterans that I know, it
Mm.
doesn't match up. So, did you feel when you were in the military, when you were in it, did you feel like you were going to get that support? Or when you were in the military, did you kind of, after a while, figure out, I'm probably not going to get the support when I get out? And what did you do? What do you do to, I guess, what did you both do to deal with that when you got out and said, okay, now what do I do? I'm maybe not getting the support maybe I need, or how did both of you kind of go through and struggle with that?
Let me ask you this, Martin. What is your definition of support?
Exactly. And that's what I want to hear from both of you.
No,
What's
that's why I'm asking.
right? So what support, I guess, did you think in your own mind you were going to get? And then how did that match up to reality, I guess?
So,
Okay.
so we both kind of already had a thought process when we both got out. We kind of knew what was going to happen. We knew what we were going to have to do. But I want you to think about this. How many nonprofits, how many organizations are out there that claim to support veterans in the things that they do? And I'm not going to name them, but I know of probably about 10 that earn millions and millions of dollars every year. And when you go back through and you look at what the money that they've actually spent to help, in one of the biggest ones, it's less than 2%. Their CEO gets paid $7 million a year, and less than 2% goes to help the veterans. So that's why I asked, what's your definition of support?
Hmm.
The things that Bobby and I do, and the things that a lot of our friends do, we're doing because we have to help each other. And we don't, it's a lot of that, I'm sorry, but a lot of it is bullshit. So that's
Facts.
why I'm asking, what's your definition of support? Support that we have and the support that we had was each other and other teammates that we still talk to and text every day. You know what I mean? That's the support. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no.
mean, it breaks my heart to hear that because in the media, right, people outside the military, you assume that you have all this support. Now, my dad was in the Korean War and he was there for 2 years. And when he passed away, on his death certificate, it said post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
He never talked about it. He said he lost people, but he really didn't have a big discussion about it. He worked two jobs, and it was really not support. He never really felt supported. And I remember talking to the doctor. He goes, "Hey, you know what? Your dad talked to me about it all the time.
Yep.
This is a general practitioner. So he didn't get any support around it. We were really surprised when we saw it because we assumed, like you said, in quiet, like you said, you as you were saying, Bobby, we assumed he was fine
Hmm.
because he didn't bring it up to us much. I guess he was bringing it up to our general practitioner, but that's it. But he didn't really feel like he got a lot of support. Is that kind of the stuff that you guys had to go through as well? I mean,
Yes.
is this all the stuff we hear on TV, like all these vets organizations? Is it all? It seems to me it doesn't match up to what you're saying, and it breaks my heart to hear that.
Um,
So you're gonna run into um, organizations. Let's just I'll put a little bit of it in perspective. You're running into organizations that make $10,000 a year as far as a nonprofit, and they actually help the veterans a lot more than some of these places that make millions and have
yeah.
commercials and stuff like that. We have a friend of ours that's in Texas that has an organization that is that he has built this thing from the ground up and actually has taken um, a peer group thing that we have given him, and he's run it. And we actually had guys that have left Texas and moved to Florida, and they have a whole town that's dedicated to just this.
Yep.
But that's off of a nonprofit that makes $10,000 a year, and they don't take any money.
Yep. Facts. So for me, for the support, while we were in, did we get everything we needed to accomplish our missions? Sometimes we had to acquire. I laugh when I say that. Sometimes we had to acquire it from big Army, Marine, or Air Force, kind of never from the Marines because they didn't have anything anyway. But the day I got out, nobody called me to see if I had anything to eat. Nobody called to see how my mental health was. Nobody checked on me unless they were my teammates. So if that answers you, I have been in the Veterans Administration since April of 2013. We can do better. I'm not here to rail on them. We can do better. Thank you for the policies that have been put in place. Thank you for the PACT Act. Thank you for all these things that our politicians have been forced to do. Because they don't do anything unless people call and people email, and they would like to hear the war stories, and that's okay. If that gets you motivated to do the right thing, because guess what? You sent us. And we have
Right.
a powerful voice, and we vote. So they should remember that. So as far as support, no. The nonprofits in America has been my life-saving. I'll be honest with you, vetsupport.org was a lifesaver. I went down and did Ibogaine. I had to leave our country to get care. Because I had tried everything, Martin. From equine therapy to music therapy to individual therapy to EMDR to prolonged exposure. You name it, I have tried it to try and kill the war, to try and tame the war, to try and set the war back. Whatever it was, I tried it. And I left the country and received help. And James, you can acknowledge that was the first real light back in my eyes in a long time. Yes.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
So because of donors who care, I was able to go down and receive help again outside of this country. I believe we're stuck. I believe we're stuck in this country of it's the either Western med or nothing. And I believe we had in November of 2024, 368 double-blind studies on psilocybin alone and the benefits of them. Do you know how many double-blind studies we had on Tylenol? One. Because they can make money off of that. I'm sorry, but my life is valuable because I missed 10 years of my children's lives. 10 years. Because when I was home, I was not home. I was back in a training cycle. I was still in the war. I tried to be a dad as best I could in the situations that I was in, but I missed that. I have to make that up now, and I can't. But all I can be is a good father moving forward from this point and the healthiest version that I possibly can be for them every single day when they pick up the phone or I'm in person with them. So I deserve that. I don't deserve to be on 13 medications when I left the United States Army. One to put me to sleep, one so I didn't dream, one to wake me up, one for this, one for that. I'm not on any now because I actually addressed the trauma that put me in that situation. That is the most valuable thing that I've ever done in my life, is addressing the trauma, not just putting a Band-Aid on it with all the pharmaceutical medications that the Veterans Administration wants to put on us. We are not zombies. We deserve to have a healthy and happy life. So I don't need any more support like that. Neither do the thousands and thousands of other men and women just like me that are tired of it. We want to heal, and we want to be back in society instead of zombies sitting on the couch all day. Thank you.
So let me ask both of you, and we'll wrap it up after this. I can't wait to listen to your podcast. Uh, so how did both of you get to a point to ask for help? Like for people out there, how did both of you get to the point to actually ask for help?
I was kind of voluntold to go get help, which I absolutely needed it at that point. I was a dangerous human being. I was, things just like I said, I lost everything in a 24-hour period, and I could not deal with that. The stuff that I fought the hardest for, you know, um, but be willing and accept, like when somebody says, "Hey, man, you need some help." And I was able to accept it and went in head first into it and did everything they asked me to do. And that was literally just the beginning of my healing process. It was not the end. It was, you know, that was the beginning. So, how about you, James?
Yeah, that was the beginning. I mean, when you when you literally come home and home is not home, and you have somebody that looks you square in the eye and says, "You look like you do when we're downrange."
Yes.
I think it was time. Like I said, there were things that were going on in my brain, but I had to hear it. I literally had to hear it from somebody else, and that was this man that was standing here that's sitting on this podcast with us today. I mean, so, but there was just a lot of other things that were going on, and when you're more comfortable in a spot that other people are not comfortable in, but then you come home to a place that's supposed to be safe and you're not comfortable there, yeah, there's something wrong. So myself, I just happened to have some really good people that were around me that were looking out. I mean, that was my big thing.
I think, Martin, you have to be willing to accept. You have to be willing to accept, because we lost a good friend this last July. Him and I were medically retired at the exact same time. And we basically kind of went like this. He could not stop going. So he got out of the military, rolled right into a contractor role, and literally kept going. That was 2013, and we lost him in July of this year. He could not stop. There are lots and lots and lots of men like that. That is, they're chasing the adrenaline dump again. They're chasing that high again. But you have to make a choice, and that choice is either you're going to stay home and be a husband and a father to whatever you have left, or you're going to continue down that path. I made the choice that I was not. Once I got out, I was out. I was out forever, no contracting, none of that. So James has made that same kind of choice in his life to be home. The longest serving war. Like, we have more time on the ground than any other war behind us. I'm not saying anything against our Vietnam veterans and our Korea veterans, none of that, World War II. Like, we were at that for 20 years, man. I mean, we did invasions in both countries.
Yeah.
It's like that is a brutal and hard war. I mean, they rotated their World War II veterans immediately back from the front lines, and they just kept rotating us in. It was nonstop. It was continuous combat operations. You were home for 30 to 60 days. No, you were home long enough to either see the birth or go back to the training range or whatever it was. So it was difficult times, man.
But it was the speed at which we were brought back. A lot of the World War II vets were, when you talk to them, the ones that are surviving, when they when they would rotate them off the front lines, they'd get, 30, 40 days somewhere, but it was away from, it's completely out of the country they were fighting in. You know what I mean? Some of the Vietnam vets said the same thing. They'd take them out of Vietnam, they'd send them to Japan, wherever it was. With us, with our community, 6, 8, 9 months, we'd rotate back. But there wasn't even though there was times where we were sitting in Bottom or sitting at Manus, when Manus was actually a thing, and sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes you'd roll back in like 24 hours, and the morning before you're sitting in a mud hut, and now you're sitting in your backyard looking around, going, "What just happened?"
Or you're in an ambush that afternoon, and your pant legs were burned off from an RPG, and then all of a sudden you're back at home.
Yeah. So you're not. It's you've got. And there's a lot of stories like what we're telling, but those were the things. With the World War II guys, for the most part, they worked and they worked and they were on a boat coming back. When it was all over. Korea, that was either a boat or they were on a plane if they were lucky. So I mean. We did, and I'm not saying, oh, poor us, oh, boo-hoo, but I mean, for the most part, we got home in less than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember on at least 3 of the deployments where we stopped in Shannon, Ireland for 16 hours. That was a break. I think I only had one where we stopped in Shannon, and then we actually flew into Maine and then flew back down. So that was but the rest of them, I mean, we flew pretty much straight back here.
Well,
so I mean, you've got to have that. You've got to have that decompression time. And there were times when they've actually tried to do that, but it just didn't work out.
Hey, James, Bobby, let me ask you this, and like I said, so people should be kind of waiting for your podcast, do you think in the next couple of weeks, or what are we looking at in terms of your podcast? Your first one's going to drop.
I would say we'll probably drop the first one middle to end of
Memorial Day. Yeah, just before Memorial Day.
Okay, so I want both of you to proudly give me that. I'm going to have you guys give the name of your wonderful podcast. So it's going to be Memorial Day. And what's the name of this podcast going to be again?
It's called the Black Sheep Radio USA, a conversation with warriors.
Well, I want to thank both of you. I want to thank you both for being here.
It's not a political thing. It's not a war story thing. It's, what keeps you on this planet? What keeps you going?
Are you guys going to have recorded versions, or are you going to have actually live versions where people are able to call in as well, or are you going to have a combination of both?
In the beginning, we're going to do recorded. We've got that mutual friend of ours. As we get going, he's going to help us. He's going to help us try to figure out how we can do some of the calls and stuff like that. But in the very beginning, it's going to be recorded. So.
And is there any other way for anybody listening to this podcast to get a hold of you that you're both comfortable, or should they just wait for the podcast to come out?
They can wait for the podcast. We'll put it out. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. With all the good, there are bad.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, you both are heroes to me. My dad, you guys are amazing. Thanks, honestly, I read stories about I've been in the law enforcement field forever, but in our work, we can take a break. We can go drive somewhere and take a break, or can decompress. But I think in those situations that both of you are in, like you said, there's no break. You're always your adrenaline and your stress level is always high. There's not a break for you. And but more importantly, I think people need to understand the resources and the support all of the people that I have to go through those kind of experience need. And for us to try to be there for folks like you and not to think that, hey, the VA's got it. They got it handled. They'll be okay. Because I think a lot of times the public, all of us feel like, oh, you know what? They have it handled. They're strong. You know, James and Bobby been through all these years. They're a lot stronger than me. But you know what? Both of you are strong, amazing people. But you're both human too. And you have emotions and you have feelings and you have families. And there's a lot of other stuff. You're not just, people are complicated people. And if you're just, as tough as both of you guys are, there's other sides to you too, and it's very difficult to make that kind of transition. I think your podcast, like I said, I can't wait to hear it. I'll listen to it because both of you just are amazing people, and I just appreciate both of you for being here. So thank you so much today.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Mark.
Until next time, everybody, we're going to have amazing guests. And I have to tell you, this is not going to be the last time you hear of these two gentlemen. I'm going to bring them back on again and because they inspire me, and I know they're going to inspire. The good thing I have to tell both of you is that we have listeners all over the world. So I'm just so happy that I got to introduce both of you to the world in this way. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you, man.
No,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. If you're
Take
going to
care.
bring us back, you must be running out of content.
Oh, no, 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 no. It's quite the contrary. I guarantee you, I'm going to have a lot of people saying, Fig, why don't you bring him back on? Why don't you bring him back on? So thank you both for being here. Again,
Yeah, man.
take care, and we'll, until next time, everybody.
Thanks, buddy.
Right. Let me stop recording.